So for today's topic, we are finally going to address the cruise ship in the room and have a discussion over the content creators or YouTubers that were recently banned from sailing with Carnival for the next 5 years. And just so we're clear, we're not just talking about the fun ships, Carnival Cruise Line. Oh no, this is what I like to call a mothership banning, meaning these content creators cannot sail with any line under the Carnival Corporation umbrella for the next 5 years, which includes, of course, Carnival Cruise Line. You got Princess, you got Holland America. Over in Europe, you got the German line AIDA, you've got the Italian line Costa, you got P&O Australia, and the luxury line Cunard, which I do want to sail with at some point. I think I got all of them, but you get the idea. Now, a lot of you have been asking me to commentate on this and talk about it because I am, of course, somebody that does make honest and objective videos that some people can perceive as potentially negative or bashing, especially when it comes to my reviews. So I do believe it's important to be very straightforward in this video, and let's look behind the scenes and past the veil of the content creator or influencer. We'll go over what happened, why I believe it potentially happened, why there has seemingly been an uptick in content creators, not only in cruising in the travel space, but in all realms of content creation, making seemingly negative content, because believe it or not, there is a lot of incentives to do so. Also, more importantly, we'll go over if it was justified for Carnival to ban these content creators for the next 5 years, as well as if there is the potential for more bannings to come. Who knows? Somebody like me could be the next on the chopping block, never to sail with Carnival, Royal Caribbean, or NCL, or any line for that matter, ever again. To the shadow realm I go. So stick around because I have some juicy stuff, and well, this should be an entertaining video. Now, just to quickly set the foundation as we sail into what's happened and why, you got two British content creators by the name of Dan and Jay. They together make Sail Away magazine. On YouTube, they have been around since 2010, so they've been around for quite a while. A lot of respect to them, and they got about 40,000, I believe it's like 44,000 subscribers, and they also, as it's in the name, have a magazine that they print out and sell in stores over in the UK. You can also purchase, of course, a digital copy. Now, they do cruise ship reviews all over the UK as well as in the United States. What's happened here is that, well, you, of course, like I said at the beginning of the video, you got the Carnival Corporation. They've done reviews over with Cunard, they've done reviews with P&O, and even more recently that has caused this presumed debacle in which they were eventually banned from sailing with Carnival cruise ships, is that they had gone on too many Carnival ships and made one too many negative reviews to the point to where they've been banned for the next 5 years. Now, as we continue sailing through this video, I do want to make it clear that I'm using the term negative very, very loosely because there is some objectivity in all of this. There's a fine line between being negative and objective. There is some gray area, and of course, there is naturally going to be a lot of nuance into, well, what people perceive as a negative video, and again, somebody that is looking at it from an objective lens. However, that being said, looking at some of these videos as I have, these guys aren't just making negative videos bashing, but I do believe that it comes to, well, maybe the quantity of cruise lines as well as the intentionality behind them sailing on these particular ships. I can tell you right now, as somebody that sails with multiple lines, I know what line to go to if I want the world's cheapest cruise or if I want a video that I think is going to get a lot of views. However, just to give you an example, I don't really run around going on just one specific line. Back in 2022, I got a $100 cruise with a $50 onboard credit on board the Carnival Conquest. And I knew that, let's say that ship, it was going to be what you would pay for. There were going to be fights. I knew that. There was going to be things that maybe potentially are not up to standard. However, I did point out in the video that I had a great time, but I pointed out everything else that needed to be improved upon. But I also knew that video was going to be a cash cow, as it is my most popular video, I believe now at this point at 4.3 million views, and it has made in the last 2 years a whopping almost $27,000. I could have easily continued trotting the globe, finding cheap cruises to take so that I could talk and say negative things potentially, but it's not really my personal cup of tea, and I don't think it is these particular guys' cup of tea what they were actually trying to do, pun intended, by the way, because they are British, of course, you get it, cup of tea. Nevertheless, you could have this issue with Carnival Corporation now where they're saying, all right, well, they're going on Cunard and saying things that can be perceived as negative. They're going on P&O and doing the same thing. They're going to Carnival in the United States, the Carnival Miracle to be specific, and saying these things knowing full well that they have the intentionality potentially through Carnival's eyes to make a negative video for clicks and views and potentially money. I believe the letter was sent by Carnival UK. That's one of the headquarters over in, I believe, Southampton. I've seen it a couple times. Nevertheless, it did say something along the lines as they believe that Carnival itself, the brand, cannot satisfy their needs. So they're going to ban them from their services for the next 5 years. And then after 5 years, which I believe will be like, what, 2030, they're going to take a look at all of this and review and see if they're going to maybe either continue the banning or releases so that these gentlemen can continue sailing once again. Now, there has indeed been a massive uptick in what a lot of people can naturally assume and perceive to be negative content when it comes to the cruise ship space. And there is many explanations for this, as well as incentives. We do know that, yes, this is the digital world that we live in now, and a lot of people are understanding that you can make a full-time living and then some just being a content creator and filming things. And we know the cruise ship industry is absolutely booming, as it was even before the COVID pandemic, and now it's circled back and is doing the exact same thing all over again. As far as the incentives, obviously, yes, there is, of course, the money. And there are some content creators, which I'm not going to say any names, even within the cruise ship space, that at one point, I would argue, let's say around or before the pandemic, they had nothing but positive things to say. They were sucking up to the line, trying to get whatever tasty morsel of free cruises and getting paid by the cruise line as much as they could. Then they found out that, well, if we just talk about something negative or give a negative review, there is the possibility that the cruise line could then turn back around and hire us or give us a suite for our negative review because we have influence, and influence equals power, and power means that you can do and say something and just get free things like a true complainer, or I'm not going to say the word. Well, I will. You guys know Karen. I don't really, subscribe to that term, but you get the idea. Somebody that is a complainer that does it solely for the intention of making a point or trying to get something out of it, which is obviously wrong. I will also be blunt and say that some of it is all of your fault as well. You fine folk. For whatever reason, as far as people spectating and watching videos on social media or these reality TV shows, I believe that was the stem or foundation or start of all of it before the internet got as big as it did, people tend to really gravitate towards drama and negativity. Even though, as many of you know, I do try my best to, yes, either give you the news and commentate on it, because I consider myself like more of a commentator than anything, whether I'm doing a review, a reaction, or news. And yes, it usually can be on things that are considered dramatic or something that bad that has happened. I try to put a positive spin on it in terms of the industry, or maybe something that a lot of people can take as a life lesson. Nevertheless, people tend to like these kind of things. I don't know how many times I've made an overwhelmingly positive video as to the best of my ability and nobody watched it. But the minute I put a video out on something that can be perceived as negative, here they all come. And there are people that, even those same people, because I remember the names, come in to complain at that point in time that, oh, all your videos are negative. Why don't you make something positive? I did, my friend. Steven, Cheryl, I absolutely did. You just didn't watch it because you chose not to, because it was a positive video. Now, at this point, the big question is, was Carnival justified in banning Sail Away magazine for the next 5 years from sailing on any ships within any of their 9 brands? I do believe it comes down to personal perspective and opinion, because we don't know how long Carnival has been watching them make this video, how many they have saved and documented and said, well, if they make one more of these videos, because they're now floating on multiple Carnival brands and bashing and pooping all over the brand, even Cunard, our luxury line, then maybe they decided to look at all of those metrics and finally come out with the decision. But the reality is, and you guys have to understand this, that Carnival and all these other lines out there, well, yes, some of them are publicly traded companies, but they're still, to a degree, private companies that, well, of course, with the say of the shareholder and whatever rules and policies that they have implemented, as well as the legality of it all, they can still do what they want. If they understand full well that there are people out there, a content creator specifically, that goes all the time on their line and never says anything good, and well, they believe that this person is intentionally going to just bash the brand for clicks and views, they are simply going to put their hands up in the air and say, well, we obviously don't have the product that you are looking for. We cannot serve you today. Sorry. Now, this does, of course, lead to the bigger question of the big question, the one everybody really wants to know. Are there more bannings on the way, with cruising growing as much as it has been and it continue to do so in popularity, all these mega ships that are coming out? Will the cruise lines out there decide to ban more people that make, let's say, presumably negative videos about them? I do believe it could go either way, but overwhelmingly for me, for the most part, I don't believe there are more bannings on the way, because there are a couple different ways to look at this situation. The industry is growing massively, and we are going to eventually get to a point where the influencer or opinion of a content creator, no matter how many subscribers they have, unless there is some massive, and I mean massive issue that takes place on board a cruise ship, is not going to completely deter a massive crowd of people from sailing on any particular cruise line. I mentioned last year when it came to Icon of the Seas, that ship is huge, right? 10,000 passengers and crew, and I call it the Disney effect. They don't need necessarily loyal to Royal or loyal fans of the line, because it's so massive, it's so breathtaking, and their obviously marketing and promoting is done so well that no matter what bad publicity is put out there, even though they could cover that up with good PR, and if there is anything too bad that happens in the first place, people still will continue to go and sail through the revolving door, because it is something that exists in places like Miami and theoretically all over the world, where it's a nice quick getaway and people can enjoy themselves for their vacation that they get potentially 1 or 2 times per year. It's not going to have that massive of an effect. Now, of course, the other way that they could go is that they could just say, well, even though one influencer or person doesn't have a definite sway on whether the vast majority of our customers and passengers sail with our particular line, we don't like the messages that they are putting out there. They may have a talk or reach out to that person, or just may ban them outright. That could be, in theory, a very real possibility. But then, of course, you go into legalities of freedom of speech and all of these other things that are implemented within these type of situations if it becomes excessive. However, let's be real. How many true cruise bashers and negative Nancys are really out there that need to be banned? I've had people say that my channel is overwhelmingly negative, but if you really go back and look at my videos, yes, I have been critical to a degree, but I've never said I completely hated a cruise. I usually talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and yeah, usually 1 or 2 potentially mild or bigger remarks can overtake the entire video. But usually, most of the time, it's something that I've heard from, let's say, a lot of people, because you guys know I am very vocal on board cruise ships. I'm very social when I'm on board cruise ships. I know a lot of you that are watching this channel have met me on multiple occasions. I cruise a lot. If I do comparisons, I make sure it is equivalent. I'm, of course, not going to compare Cunard to Carnival, even though they are under the same umbrella. They are not in the same financial space or cruise space, because remember, you got your standard or legacy lines, you've got your premium products, and you've got your luxury products. They are not all the same, which is understandable. So it just depends on the viewpoint and what not only the cruise lines perceive as negative, but just overwhelmingly what is very straightforward and blunt as a series of negative videos. Anywho, I think a lot of you are probably tired of hearing my voice at this point. I just know there were a decent amount of you that reached out to me and asked if I would talk about this. I don't know how well this video is going to do, but I just wanted to have a sit and talk video and just be straightforward and blunt, and of course open all of you up into the conversation in the comment section. Let me know what you think about this topic. Do you think that I could potentially get banned from any particular cruise line with my videos? Do keep in mind, I do, at this point in time, I've worked and still continue to work with Carnival, Royal Caribbean. They've invited me on Star of the Seas. Oops, I was supposed to keep that a secret, but anyway, they've invited me, and then MSC and Margaritaville. I work with these lines as well, and honestly, they haven't really said anything to me that is perceived as, well, along the lines of they're going to ban me anytime soon. But just to keep that in mind, food for thought. But that's what I have for today's video, guys. Hit that like button on your way out. Once again, comment, and know as usual that I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you later. Take it easy.